They walked right past you, ignored you, dismissed you as ordinary. But there was one person who stopped, looked closer, and saw something everyone else missed. There's a moment in every chosen one's journey when someone in authority recognizes what you carry before you fully recognize it yourself. A leader who sees past your current circumstances and identifies a potential buried inside you. A person in power who stops in the middle of their busy life and says, "There's something different about you." And that moment of recognition changes everything. Because when the right leader sees you, doors open that you couldn't open yourself. I'm Daniel. And today I'm going to tell you stories about chosen ones who were seen by leaders when everyone else overlooked them. Stories that will help you understand why certain people in authority are drawn to you even when you feel invisible. Stories that will show you what happens when a leader recognizes a chosen one. And by the end, you'll understand that the recognition you're waiting for isn't random. It's part of a divine setup that's been in motion longer than you realize. Let me tell you about a young woman named Ruth. Not the Ruth in the Bible, though her story echoes that one in interesting ways. This Ruth grew up in poverty. Single mom, 3 siblings, living in a neighborhood where most kids didn't make it out. She was smart, but so were a lot of kids in her school. She was determined, but determination doesn't pay for college. She had dreams, but dreams don't change your zip code. Ruth worked at a grocery store after school, bagging groceries, stocking shelves, cleaning up spills. She'd been there for 2 years, saving every dollar she could for community college. Nobody really noticed her. She was just another teenager in a uniform doing a job, one face in a sea of employees. But there was a woman who shopped there every week. Her name was Margaret. Margaret was a retired executive who built and sold 3 companies. She was wealthy, connected, and known in the city for her philanthropy. And every Tuesday, she'd come to that grocery store, and Ruth would bag her groceries. For 6 months, they had the same interaction. Margaret would check out, Ruth would bag the groceries, they'd exchange pleasantries, and that was it. But Margaret was watching. She noticed things about Ruth that nobody else paid attention to. The way Ruth organized the bag so the heavy items were balanced, and nothing would crush the bread. The way she remembered Margaret's preference for paper bags, even though plastic was faster. The way she thanked every customer genuinely, even the rude ones. The way she stayed 15 minutes past her shift to help an elderly man load groceries into his car. Most people wouldn't notice these things. They're small, insignificant. But Margaret had spent 40 years in business reading people. And what she saw in Ruth wasn't just a good work ethic. She saw a character. She saw someone who did excellent work, even when nobody was watching. She saw someone who treated a minimum wage job with the same care most people reserve for their dream job. She saw someone who was faithful with little, which meant they could be trusted with much. One Tuesday, Margaret did something different. After Ruth bagged her groceries, Margaret handed her a business card. "I've been watching you for 6 months," she said. "You have something special. I don't know if you see it, but I do. Call me when you're ready to talk about your future." Ruth was confused. She looked at the card. Margaret Chun, CEO. Ruth had no idea she'd been bagging groceries for one of the most successful businesswomen in the state. She almost threw the card away, almost convinced herself it was some weird scam or mistake. But something told her to call. When they met for coffee, Margaret asked Ruth about her dreams. And Ruth, who'd never had anyone ask her that question seriously, broke down crying. She told Margaret about wanting to go to college but not having the money, about wanting to start a nonprofit to help kids in her neighborhood but not knowing where to start, about feeling stuck in a life that was going nowhere despite working as hard as she knew how. Margaret listened, and then she said something Ruth would never forget. "I didn't give you my card because I feel sorry for you. I gave it to you because I see something in you that most people miss. You have the character of a leader. You have integrity. You have excellence. Those things can't be taught. Skills can be taught. Knowledge can be learned. But character? That's rare. And I built my entire career on finding people with rare character and investing in them." Margaret paid for Ruth's college. Full ride. But more than that, she mentored her, introduced her to her network, taught her about business, leadership, negotiation, opened doors that Ruth didn't even know existed. And Ruth? She graduated top of her class, started the nonprofit she dreamed about, and 10 years later, that nonprofit has helped over 5,000 kids in underserved communities get scholarships and mentorship. All because one leader saw what everyone else missed. All because Margaret stopped long enough to look past the uniform and the circumstances and recognize a chosen one. That's what I want to talk about today. The leaders who see what others miss. Because this happens over and over in the lives of chosen ones. You're going through life feeling invisible, and then someone in authority stops and really sees you. And that moment changes your trajectory. Let me tell you about David. The Bible David this time. He was the youngest of 8 brothers. A shepherd, the job nobody else wanted. While his older brothers were soldiers, impressive and strong, David was in the fields watching sheep. When the prophet Samuel came to anoint the next king of Israel, David's father Jesse didn't even bother to bring him in from the fields. He lined up his 7 impressive sons and assumed one of them would be chosen. Samuel looked at the oldest. Tall, strong, looked like a king. And God said no. He went through all 7 brothers. And every time, God said no. Finally, Samuel asked if there were any other sons. Jesse reluctantly admitted there was one more, the youngest, but he was out with the sheep, not even worth bringing in. But Samuel insisted. And when David walked in, young and overlooked and smelling like sheep, God said, "That's the one." Samuel saw what everyone else missed. Not because he was particularly insightful, but because God opened his eyes to see what was in David's heart rather than what was obvious about his circumstances. Everyone saw a shepherd boy. Samuel saw a king. This pattern repeats throughout Scripture. Joseph was in prison, and Pharaoh's cupbearer saw something in him. Moses was a fugitive shepherd, and God saw a deliverer. Esther was an orphan, and a king saw a queen. Gideon was hiding in a winepress. An angel saw a mighty warrior. Peter was a fisherman, and Jesus saw the rock on which he'd build his church. Leaders with spiritual sight don't see you the way others do. They don't see your current circumstances as your final destination. They see the seed of greatness inside you that hasn't sprouted yet. They see the potential that's been buried under insecurity, poverty, trauma, or obscurity. They see what God put in you even when you can't see it yourself. Now, let me tell you about Marcus. He was in prison, 23 years old, serving time for a crime he committed when he was 19. He'd made terrible choices, destroyed relationships, hurt people. He'd accepted that his life was basically over before it really started. Prison was just where he deserved to be. But there was a chaplain named Pastor Mike who came to the prison every week to lead Bible study. Most inmates came because it got them out of their cells for an hour. Marcus came because he had nothing better to do. He'd sit in the back, half paying attention, not really expecting anything to change. Pastor Mike noticed Marcus, not because Marcus was disruptive or particularly engaged. He noticed him because he saw something in Marcus's eyes during worship, a hunger, a desperation, something that said this young man wanted more than the life he created for himself but didn't know how to get it. After a few weeks, Pastor Mike pulled Marcus aside. "I see something in you," he said. "I can't explain what it is, but God's telling me you're not supposed to end up here. You're supposed to lead people. You're supposed to help others find freedom. And I know that sounds crazy given where you are right now, but I'm going to invest in you like you're already who you're going to become." Marcus thought Pastor Mike was delusional, but Pastor Mike kept showing up, kept teaching Marcus, kept treating him like he mattered, kept speaking vision over him when Marcus couldn't see past the prison walls. And slowly, something shifted in Marcus. He started believing that maybe his past didn't have to define his future. Maybe God could use even someone like him. When Marcus was released, Pastor Mike had a job waiting for him at the church. Not a pity job, a real position on staff, helping with youth outreach. He gave Marcus responsibility, trusted him, believed in him when Marcus barely believed in himself. And Marcus rose to meet that belief. He worked harder than anyone else. He poured himself into helping young men avoid the mistakes he'd made. He became one of the most effective youth leaders that church had ever had. Today, Marcus runs his own nonprofit focused on prison ministry and reentry programs. He's helped hundreds of formerly incarcerated men and women rebuild their lives. He speaks at conferences, trains other ministries, and advocates for criminal justice reform, all because one leader saw past his criminal record and recognized a chosen one. That's what leaders do when they have spiritual sight. They see the person God created you to be, not the person circumstances shaped you into. They see the calling on your life, even when your life looks nothing like that calling yet. And they're willing to invest in potential that everyone else overlooks. Let me tell you why this matters so much for chosen ones. Because there's a lie that many of us believe. The lie that we have to prove ourselves before anyone will notice us. That we have to achieve something impressive before we'll be recognized. That we have to already be successful before opportunities will come. But that's not how God works. He doesn't wait until you're impressive to position you for greatness. He sends leaders into your life while you're still ordinary, still struggling, still invisible to everyone else. And those leaders see you not because you've earned it, but because God opens their eyes to see what He's placed inside you. This is why chosen ones often have bizarre stories of favor. You'll be working a regular job, and a CEO randomly notices you. You'll be sitting in a class, and a professor singles you out for an opportunity. You'll be attending a church, and a pastor pulls you aside with a word about your calling. You didn't do anything to make yourself stand out. You weren't trying to get attention. But someone with authority saw you anyway. That's divine orchestration. God positioning leaders in your path who have eyes to see what He's doing in your life. And when those leaders speak recognition over you, they're not just being nice. They're activating something. They're calling forth what God has already placed inside you. They're giving you permission to believe in the potential you've been too afraid or too insecure to believe in yourself. Let me tell you about Sarah. She was a single mom working 2 jobs to support her kids. No college degree, no special skills, just grinding every day to survive. She attended a small church where she helped out in children's ministry on Sundays. That was her only break from work and parenting. The one place she felt like she was doing something that mattered. The senior pastor's wife, Sister Janet, noticed Sarah. She saw how Sarah interacted with the kids, how she remembered every child's name, how she created lessons that were engaging and age-appropriate, how she had a gift for connecting with kids who were difficult and helping them feel loved. Sister Janet had been in ministry for 30 years, and she recognized anointing when she saw it. One Sunday, Sister Janet asked Sarah if they could talk. She told Sarah that she believed God was calling her into children's ministry professionally, not just as a volunteer, but as her career. Sarah laughed it off. She had no training, no credentials, no money to go back to school. How could she possibly make a career out of children's ministry? But Sister Janet was persistent. She connected Sarah with a ministry training program. She helped her apply for scholarships. She advocated for Sarah to be hired part-time at the church while she was in school. She became Sarah's biggest cheerleader and advocate, constantly reminding her what she saw in her when Sarah wanted to quit. Today, Sarah is a children's pastor at a large church. She oversees a ministry that reaches over 300 kids every week. She's written curriculum that's used by churches across the country. She trains other children's ministry leaders. She's become exactly what Sister Janet saw in her years ago when she was just a single mom volunteering on Sundays. This is what happens when leaders see what others miss. They don't just recognize potential. They invest in it. They use their influence, their resources, their network to create opportunities for the chosen ones they recognize. They become spiritual parents, mentors, advocates. They leverage their position to elevate people who have the anointing but not the access. And here's something crucial to understand. These leaders who see you, they're not doing it randomly. They're assigned to you. God has placed specific people in positions of authority whose job is to recognize you and open doors for you. You might meet hundreds of people in authority throughout your life, but there will be certain ones who see you differently, who are drawn to you without fully understanding why, who feel compelled to help you succeed. Those people are part of your divine assignment. They're not accidents. They're angels in human form, sent to confirm your calling and accelerate your progress. And when you meet them, when they speak recognition over you, don't dismiss it. Don't talk yourself out of believing what they see. Receive it, honor it, let it sink into your spirit and change how you see yourself. Let me tell you what happens when you receive the recognition that leaders speak over you. First, it gives you permission to dream bigger. Most chosen ones dream small because they don't believe they have what it takes to accomplish big things. But when someone you respect, someone successful, someone in authority tells you that you have greatness in you, it expands your vision. It gives you permission to believe in possibilities you dismissed as unrealistic. Second, it gives you courage to step out. Fear holds most people back from their calling. Fear of failure, fear of rejection, fear of not being qualified. But when a leader invests in you, when they put their reputation behind you, it gives you courage. You think, if they believe in me, maybe I can do this. And that courage is often what you need to take the first step toward your destiny. Third, it gives you access. Leaders have networks, resources, and influence that you don't have. When they recognize you, they often open doors that you couldn't open yourself. They make introductions, create opportunities, and vouch for you in rooms you can't get into on your own. Their recognition becomes your access pass to the next level. Fourth, it accelerates your progress. You could spend years trying to figure things out on your own, but when a leader mentors you, they give you wisdom that they learned over decades. They help you avoid mistakes, identify opportunities, and make strategic decisions. They compress your learning curve and fast-track your development. But here's what you need to know. Not every person in authority is assigned to see you. Some leaders will overlook you just like everyone else does. They'll look right at you and see nothing special. And that's okay. That's actually protection. Because you don't need every leader to recognize you. You just need the right leaders. The ones who are assigned to your journey. So don't be discouraged when certain people in authority don't see what you carry. Don't waste energy trying to prove yourself to people who aren't assigned to you. Focus on being faithful where you are, developing your character, and staying ready. Because the leaders who are supposed to see you will see you. You won't have to convince them or campaign for their attention. They'll recognize you the same way Margaret recognized Ruth, the same way Pastor Mike recognized Marcus, the same way Sister Janet recognized Sarah. And when that recognition comes, be ready to receive it. Don't let insecurity talk you out of it. Don't let past failures make you feel unworthy of it. Don't let poverty or lack of education or your criminal record or your family background convince you that they must be mistaken. If a leader with spiritual sight says they see something in you, trust that what they're seeing is real. Let me tell you one more story. This one's about a young man named Timothy, not the biblical Timothy. Though again, the parallels are interesting. This Timothy was awkward, shy, struggled with anxiety. He'd grown up in a dysfunctional home, dealt with abuse, and by the time he was in his 20s, he convinced himself that he was damaged goods, that the best he could hope for was to just survive life without causing too much trouble. Timothy started attending a church where the pastor was known for raising up leaders. Pastor James had a gift for identifying potential in people and developing them. And one Sunday after service, Pastor James approached Timothy. "Can we grab coffee this week?" he asked. "I'd like to get to know you better." Timothy was terrified. He assumed he must have done something wrong. But when they met, Pastor James said something that Timothy will never forget. "I've been watching you for a few months, and I keep hearing God say that you're going to be a pastor, that you're going to lead people. And I know that probably sounds insane to you given your struggles, but I don't think God makes mistakes. And I'd like to mentor you if you're willing." Timothy almost said no, almost told Pastor James that he'd picked the wrong person, that Timothy wasn't pastor material, that his past disqualified him. But something in him wanted to believe what Pastor James saw. So he said yes. And for the next 5 years, Pastor James poured into Timothy, taught him, trained him, put him in positions of leadership, even when Timothy felt unready, spoke vision over him when Timothy couldn't see past his insecurities. Today, Timothy is the lead pastor of a church plant that's reaching people who've been hurt by church and rejected by religious people. His past, the very thing he thought disqualified him, became his greatest asset because he understands pain. He understands what it's like to feel broken, and he pastors people with compassion that only comes from having been broken yourself and finding that God can still use you, all because one leader saw what Timothy couldn't see in himself. This is the power of recognition. This is what happens when leaders with spiritual eyes look at chosen ones and see past the surface to the gold buried underneath. They call it forth. They invest in it. They create space for it to develop. And they watch God do what he always does. Take the overlooked, the underestimated, the broken, and the ordinary, and turn them into something extraordinary. So, if you're a chosen one who's been waiting for recognition, let me tell you something. It's coming. The right leaders are being positioned in your path right now. They're being prepared to see you. And when they do, they're going to speak things over you that will change your life. They're going to open doors you couldn't open. They're going to invest in you in ways that will accelerate your calling. But while you're waiting, be faithful where you are. Be excellent even when nobody's watching. Develop your character. Work on your integrity. Because when the leader who's assigned to recognize you shows up, they need to see someone who's ready to be invested in. Someone who's been faithful with little, so they can be trusted with much. And if you've already had leaders recognize you, if you've already experienced someone in authority seeing what others missed, honor that. Don't take it for granted. Don't waste the investment they're making in you. Rise to meet their belief in you. Work harder than everyone else. Be more faithful than anyone expects. Prove that their recognition wasn't misplaced. Because here's the thing. When a leader recognizes a chosen one and invests in them, it's not just about that one person. It's about everyone that chosen one will eventually influence. Ruth is helping thousands of kids. Marcus is restoring hundreds of formerly incarcerated people. Sarah is shaping 300 kids every week. Timothy is pastoring a church full of people who've been rejected by other churches. One leader seeing one chosen one creates a ripple effect that touches countless lives. That's why this matters so much. That's why God positions leaders strategically to recognize chosen ones at the right time. Because he's not just developing you. He's developing everyone you're going to lead, help, and influence. You are seen, even when you feel invisible. Even when it seems like no one notices. Even when you're bagging groceries or sitting in prison or volunteering in children's ministry or struggling with anxiety. You are seen, not by everyone, but by the right ones. The leaders who carry the anointing to recognize what God has placed in you.